Have you ever met someone and felt like you've known them forever? Or maybe you loved someone so deeply, even though they brought you nothing but pain? What if I told you that this isn't random? That your heart is remembering something your mind has forgotten? In Buddhism, there's a powerful truth. Love doesn't always begin in this lifetime. Some loves are karmic. Some loves are carried from life to life. In this video, we'll explore what karmic relationships really are, why they feel so intense, and how the Buddha's teachings can help us understand them and be free from the suffering they cause. So if you've ever asked, why do I keep falling for them, even when it hurts? Stay with me. You may find the answer comes from a life you've already lived. When we speak of karmic relationships, we're not talking about just any emotional connection. These aren't casual encounters or even ordinary romances. A karmic relationship is born from a much deeper layer of existence. It begins long before this lifetime, shaped by the energy, actions, and choices we made in past lives. According to the Buddha's teachings, every moment of intention creates a karmic imprint. These imprints don't vanish at death. They follow us, unfolding over many lifetimes, and sometimes, they pull us right back into the arms of someone we once loved, or once hurt. You may have felt it before. That sense of instant familiarity. That spark of deep knowing when you look into someone's eyes. As if your soul remembers, even if your mind doesn't. These are the echoes of a karmic connection. They arise not by accident, but through the law of cause and effect. That law, the law of karma, is not just about justice or consequence. It's about completion. If love once bloomed between two souls but ended unfinished, karma may bring them back together. Not as punishment, but as an opportunity to resolve what's unresolved. To see clearly what was once hidden. To grow in ways we couldn't before. But karmic love is not always beautiful. It can be deeply painful, confusing, even destructive. Why? Because it stirs the most ancient patterns in us. Attachments we never healed. Wounds we never faced. Desires we never understood. In a karmic relationship, you're not just loving someone from this life. You're dancing with ghosts from another. And sometimes, that dance is a spiral, pulling you into drama and longing. Other times, it becomes a mirror, reflecting the parts of yourself that need awakening. The Buddha didn't ask us to reject love, but he did ask us to look at it clearly. With mindfulness, with compassion, with wisdom. Karmic relationships aren't here to break us. They're here to open us, to show us where we're still bound. And through that, we begin the work of real liberation. We begin to love not with attachment, but with understanding, not with craving, but with clarity. And that's when karma transforms from a chain into a doorway into deeper presence, and ultimately, peace. If karmic relationships begin in past lives, then it makes sense that our present love stories are often echoes, ripples from something left behind. According to Buddhist teachings, the cycle of rebirth isn't random. It's shaped by our karma, by the habits of heart and mind we've cultivated over lifetimes. That includes how we loved, how we hurt others, how we clung or let go. All of it leaves a trace. And those traces don't just shape who we become, they also influence who we meet again. Have you ever looked at someone and felt something ancient? Something that goes beyond physical attraction or shared interests? You can't explain it, but you feel it in your bones. Maybe it's a deep sense of safety, or a fear that won't go away, or an overwhelming pull toward them, even when it doesn't make sense. These experiences might be signs that your connection with this person didn't begin in this life. Maybe you were lovers in a past life. Maybe you betrayed them, or maybe they made a vow they couldn't keep. Whatever happened then may now be unfolding again, this time, as an opportunity to respond differently. In Buddhism, we call this meeting again through karmic affinity. It doesn't guarantee the relationship will be joyful. It only means that the bond is unfinished. And the emotions that arise, whether love, jealousy, obsession, or sorrow, are messengers. They tell us what still needs healing. They show us where we're still entangled. That's why karmic relationships feel so intense. They touch places within us that we don't fully understand. They stir emotions that feel too big, too fast, and if we're not careful, we mistake that intensity for destiny. We think the pain means it's meant to be. But in truth, that pain may be asking us to wake up. So rather than chasing the feeling, the Buddhist path invites us to pause and reflect. What am I feeling here? Is this love, or attachment? Is this care, or control? Is this union, or clinging? When we bring that kind of gentle inquiry to our relationships, we begin to see them not just as romantic experiences, but as spiritual ones. Each connection becomes part of our awakening. And even if we've known someone across lifetimes, the present moment still offers a choice: to repeat old patterns, or to break free from them with compassion and wisdom. If we begin to understand that relationships, especially the intense ones, may carry karmic weight from previous lives, then it becomes clear why certain people reappear in our stories again and again. It's not just coincidence. It's the unfolding of causes we ourselves have planted long ago. According to the law of karma, nothing happens without a cause. Every bond we form, every heartbreak we experience, every reunion or separation, they are all results of seeds we've sown, consciously or not. And often, the people who come back into our lives are part of the balance being restored. Let's say in a past life, someone deeply loved you, but you abandoned them without closure. That pain doesn't disappear with death. It creates karmic energy, an unfinished thread. In this life, that soul might return, drawn to you by an invisible pull. The attraction might be instant, but so is the confusion. You feel like you owe them something, even if you don't know why. Or maybe you feel trapped in guilt, in longing, or in a need to make things right. Even if the logic of this lifetime can't explain it, that's karma working beneath the surface. Karma doesn't just bind us through romance. It binds us through emotion, through attachment, betrayal, even revenge. And sometimes we meet again not to be happy, but to resolve a cycle. That's why so many karmic relationships are turbulent. They burn hot, fast, and deep. They often involve a push and pull, intense passion followed by equally intense conflict. And underneath all of it is a kind of sacred echo. Two souls trying to finish something they couldn't before. But if we don't understand this, we might keep repeating the same patterns. Life after life, we keep falling into the same roles: the chaser, the abandoned, the fixer, the betrayed. That's why the Buddha taught us to examine the relationship, not just from the heart, but with wisdom. Instead of asking, "How can I keep this person?" we ask, "What is this relationship showing me?" Maybe it's showing you your deep fear of being alone. Maybe it's revealing your tendency to control, or to self-abandon. And once you see it, you have power. You can choose not to act from old habits. You can choose to love more freely, more honestly, more lightly. Karma may have brought you together, but awareness determines what happens next. ChatGPT Da Noi. When we begin to see that these karmic ties are not here by accident, but are showing up so something deeper can be healed, we start to approach love in a different way. We stop asking why it's so painful, and instead ask what it's trying to teach us. Because the truth is, karmic relationships aren't usually soft or steady. They can be overwhelming. They can break us open in ways we didn't expect. But underneath that intensity is an invitation to grow, to evolve, to break free from patterns that have followed us for lifetimes. It's easy to mistake the drama of a karmic relationship for real love. The passion, the highs and lows, the sense that you just can't live without this person, it feels cinematic. Like fate. But in the Buddhist view, Those intense emotions are often a sign of clinging, not clarity. The very thing that makes karmic relationships so magnetic is also what makes them painful. We're pulled not just by love, but by attachment, by desire, by past wounds still seeking attention. That's why many karmic relationships don't bring peace. They bring disruption. You might find yourself constantly walking on emotional eggshells, or feeling like you're trapped in a cycle, one moment deeply connected, the next pulled apart by misunderstanding or hurt. And no matter how hard you try to fix it, something keeps pulling the thread tighter. That's karma, too, but not as punishment. Karma isn't here to make us suffer, it's here to make us see. See where we give our power away. See how we confuse possession with love. See how we abandon ourselves trying to hold on to someone else. These relationships come into our lives to highlight the very patterns we need to face. And if we can stay awake in the middle of the fire, we begin to understand the pain is not the enemy. The pain is the pointer. It's showing us where we are still bound, where we are still reacting from old stories, where we still need to choose love from wisdom, not from fear. The Buddha never said love should be without feeling, but he did teach that freedom only comes when we stop clinging to what's temporary and begin to anchor ourselves in truth. In a karmic relationship, the work is not just about being together. It's about waking up, and sometimes, the deepest love is not the one that stays, but the one that helps you grow into who you really are. As you begin to notice the emotional turbulence in a karmic relationship, you might start asking yourself a question that many people are afraid to ask. Is this really love? Or is this a pattern? It's a powerful and necessary question. Because the truth is, not every deep connection is meant to be a lifelong partnership. Sometimes, the connection is intense because there is karma that must come to the surface and be seen, so it can finally be released. Buddhist teachings remind us that clinging leads to suffering, and karmic relationships often expose just how tightly we cling, whether it's to a person, to an ideal, or even to pain itself. When we're in these relationships, we can mistake suffering for passion. We think that the chaos means it's real. But pain is not always proof of love. In fact, pain may be showing us where our old karma is still operating, quietly shaping the way we show up in love. So how do you know if you're in a karmic relationship? Sometimes, the signs are subtle. You feel drawn to the person in a way that doesn't make logical sense. There's a sense of urgency, like you have to be with them, no matter the cost. The relationship may swing between extremes, moments of deep connection followed by arguments or coldness. There's often a cycle that repeats itself, fighting, making up, feeling hopeful, and then crashing again. You feel addicted to the connection, even when it brings more pain than peace. One of the most telling signs is that this relationship feels like it's trying to teach you something. Maybe it's showing you how you lose yourself when you love. Maybe it's making you face your fear of abandonment or your need to control. Karmic relationships are rarely calm, but they are always revealing. They reveal the very places where you're still trapped, places you might not even know were there. And here's what's beautiful. Once you start to see clearly, you're no longer a prisoner of your karma. You're a participant in your awakening. The relationship might still challenge you, but it won't confuse you. You begin to recognize the difference between love that nurtures and love that binds. Between staying out of fear and choosing to grow, even if that means letting go. The intensity of a karmic relationship isn't a curse. It's a spotlight. It shines directly onto the emotional and spiritual work you're ready to do. And the moment you stop asking, how do I keep this person? And start asking, what am I learning here? That's the moment karma begins to loosen its grip. And freedom begins to rise. ChatGPT Da Noi. Once we begin to see the patterns in karmic relationships, once we've asked the hard questions and started to see how karma moves through our connections, we're left with another important question. What now? What do we do with this knowledge? Do we stay? Do we leave? The truth is, karmic relationships aren't always meant to be avoided. Sometimes, they are meant to be honored. But that can only happen when we understand the lessons we're being asked to learn through them. From the Buddhist perspective, every relationship is a field of practice. Even the most painful one can become fertile ground for compassion, patience, forgiveness, and insight. A karmic relationship often presents us with specific emotional patterns: attachment, jealousy, fear of rejection, abandonment, that have shown up before in our past lives, and maybe even in earlier chapters of this life. These patterns don't show up to punish us. They appear so that we can finally face them with awareness. Not to react blindly, but to respond with clarity. The person you're with may trigger deep insecurities within you, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong for you. It might mean they've arrived to help you see something you couldn't see on your own. Maybe they mirror your fear of being unloved, or challenge your sense of self-worth. Maybe they push you to finally speak up, or to finally learn how to let go. Karmic love isn't about comfort. It's about growth, and that growth often comes in the form of emotional friction. What matters most is how we respond to it. Do we lash out and cling tighter? Or do we pause and ask, what is this emotion teaching me? When we shift into that mindset, the relationship becomes a path not to happily ever after, but to deeper self-awareness. Maybe the two of you are meant to move through this karma together, evolving side by side. Or maybe the purpose of the connection is to learn a specific lesson, and then to part ways with gratitude instead of bitterness. The Buddha taught that wisdom comes when we can hold both love and impermanence at the same time. When we see that even the deepest bonds are not possessions, but passing conditions, that insight doesn't make love less powerful. It makes it more honest. And it allows us to walk through relationships with open eyes and an open heart. The karma is real, but so is your capacity to learn from it. And to grow into someone who loves with awareness, not illusion. As we continue exploring the depth of karmic relationships, one question naturally arises: can these intense, often turbulent connections ever become peaceful? Is it possible for a relationship born from old karma, filled with emotion, struggle, and unresolved energy, to evolve into something stable, loving, and calm? The answer is yes, but it comes with a condition. Both people must be willing to grow. Both must walk the path of awareness, together or separately, for the karma to truly transform. Karmic relationships often start with a strong pull, like gravity between two souls. But once the initial intensity fades, what's left are the emotional patterns that karma has brought to the surface. If both partners recognize this, they can use the relationship as a space for mutual awakening. They can begin to communicate with honesty instead of reaction, to see each other not just through old roles, but with fresh eyes. This requires humility. It requires each person to take responsibility for their emotions and behaviors, rather than blaming the other. But what if only one person is willing to grow? What if one partner is committed to mindfulness and emotional healing, while the other remains stuck in old cycles of control, fear, or denial? This is where discernment becomes essential. Buddhism teaches that compassion isn't the same as self-sacrifice. Staying in a relationship that continues to harm you isn't a sign of spiritual maturity. It may simply be another form of attachment. Sometimes, letting go is the most loving thing you can do, not just for yourself, but for the other person too. There's a misconception that walking away means the karma is left unresolved. But that's not true. What resolves karma is not how long you stay, but how you show up, with clarity, compassion, and conscious action. If you leave a karmic relationship with blame, bitterness, or avoidance, the lesson may still follow you. But if you part ways with understanding and forgiveness, the thread begins to dissolve. The karma completes. Some karmic bonds do become peaceful. They soften over time. The intensity fades, but in its place is a deeper respect, a quieter kind of love. This happens when both people evolve beyond the original karmic charge. They're no longer acting from wounds or fears, but from understanding. In that space, a karmic relationship becomes something more than just a cycle from the past. It becomes a conscious partnership, grounded in the present, open to growth, and free from illusion. Whether you stay or leave, the real question is always this: are you awakening through this relationship? Are you becoming more free, more compassionate, more present? If the answer is yes, then the karma is already doing its work, and peace is already on its way. Chat GPT da noi. And so we arrive at the final part of this reflection. What now? After hearing the teachings, after sitting with the painful truth that our repeated heartbreaks might not be random, but karmic echoes of past patterns, what are we meant to do? The Buddha didn't just point out suffering, he offered a path beyond it. And here too, he offers us a way forward. It starts with awareness. With each moment of mindfulness, we loosen the grip of old karmic tendencies. When you feel drawn to someone who mirrors your old wounds, pause, breathe, ask yourself, am I choosing out of love? Or am I repeating out of habit? This is the power of awareness. It gives us a choice where before there was only reactivity. Karma loses its hold the moment we become truly present. But awareness isn't enough without compassion. Some of us carry deep wounds from being mistreated, abandoned, or misunderstood. Others carry guilt for hurting those who loved them. Whatever your story, compassion is the balm. It doesn't erase karma, but it transforms how we relate to it. We stop seeing people as villains or saviors, and start seeing them as fellow travelers, just as lost, just as yearning for peace. This is where forgiveness enters, not as a moral obligation, but as a liberating act. You forgive, not to excuse someone's behavior, but to free yourself from the chain that binds you to them. You ask for forgiveness, not because you're unworthy, but because you're ready to take responsibility and step into a more conscious future. And finally, there's practice, meditation, chanting, acts of service. These aren't just spiritual checkboxes. They are karmic seeds. Every act of clarity, kindness, or restraint is a counterweight to past tendencies. You might not see instant results, but the wheel turns, and slowly, relationships begin to change. You begin to change. So if you've loved the wrong person again and again, don't despair. You're not doomed. You're awakening. And awakening is messy, but it's sacred. In the ashes of failed love, you're planting something new. This time, not driven by karma, but guided by wisdom. Keep going. Your next love, whether romantic, spiritual, or self-love, can be different. It begins now.